Welcome to tonight's live stream. I am going to get started in a minute. Just need to do a little promotion to let everybody know that the stream is going on right now.
If you want to eat healthy and feel your best, you got.
Okay, now that I've done all the promotion on social media, I'm going to go into a little perfunctory. Now, I'm going to give everybody an update on the progress report on the John Haynes at Death's Door comic, and that Antonio Barberi has started work on the cover. So we're getting close to the finish line on John Haynes at Death's Door. Once I get this cover, I will be putting up a date to launch the Kickstarter, and I'm hoping everyone comes out and picks up a copy of John Haynes at Death's Door. I'm hoping everybody comes out and picks up the comic because this was a lot of work. Not a lot of fun putting this comic together, and I just can't wait to share it with you. Now that the comic is on its way, I also wanted to tell everybody about the SJS Direct 2022 catalog. Now, the SJS Direct 2022 catalog launched with ISIS Legacy, which is now available in paperback and Kindle right now, and it will. The next book in the 2022 catalog will be Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman. Now, Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman is available in paperback right now, and it will be coming to Kindle on Friday, May 13th. Now, with all of that perfunctory out of the way, I am going to get into tonight's show. Now, tonight's show is inspired by a video by O'Shea Duke Jackson, and in this video, he talked about a rumored divorce that Will Smith wants to file against Jada Pinkett, and he talked about how your Will Smith was scared of taking losses as related to this divorce and losing almost half of his $350 million fortune, and also having lots of secrets revealed as related to his personal life. But when it comes down to a man cannot be afraid to take an L. Sometimes a man has to take an L in a situation in order to get to a better place. Now, a lot of these beta males out here, like a Will Smith, they are oftentimes afraid of taking losses, and they're afraid of taking losses because they fear that it will disrupt their smooth world. And because they're afraid of it disrupting their smooth world, they don't want to take any losses because they're afraid it's going to disrupt their lives. Now, for a lot of these guys, these losses, they feel really bad, and that's the core problem with a lot of these beta males. They sit there, they again want their worlds to be smooth. They want everything to be perfect. And one of the things that makes their lives a mess is they really don't want things to change. Unfortunately, change is a part of life. And in order for life to change, you have to know how to lose in life. And losing sometimes is not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to lose in life in order to learn how to get success. That's something many of your beta males don't know how understand because all they want to do is win all the time and they want everything to go perfectly right because if things go perfectly right, their world remains smooth. Unfortunately, they don't understand that it's in those rough areas that we see that how a man handles conflict, and you need to understand that in order to gain any sort of success, you've got to know how to deal with conflict. And part of having to deal with conflict is the understanding that you're going to hear the word no, and you're going to have to deal with things like rejection. Now, hearing the word no is the first loss anybody hears in their lives. And if you don't know how to deal with somebody saying no, then you won't be able to handle a situation when people say yes. Now, learning how to deal with somebody saying no may seem like something that many children should be able to get, but many guys, like your Will Smiths and many of your simps and beta males, they really do not understand what it means when somebody says no to them because oftentimes their mothers give them everything that they want. And oftentimes, many of these mothers, when they give them everything that they want, what happens is that these boys never learn how to deal with rejection, and because they never learn how to deal with rejection, they never build any sort of discipline or resolve. Because every time somebody is saying yes to you, what happens is that you never learn how to deal with somebody saying no. So these guys never learn how to deal with loss early on. And because they never deal with loss early on, what happens is they don't really know how to go out here and let something go in order to move things forward. So they don't hear the word no early on. And this is what leads to them never really learning what they need to learn in order to deal with any sort of loss in life. Now, this whole situation as related to them dealing with loss, this is what leads to them never being able to deal with other problems in their life. And what happens is these guys they wind up falling completely apart. So you have your guys, they don't know how to take a loss. And because they don't know how to take a loss early on by hearing the word no from mommy, what happens is many of these guys, they never again learn that build that discipline and resolve in order to be able to navigate other situations. Now, the big problem with your guys like your Will Smith as related to taking losses is that they don't understand that taking losses is part of a process in order to gain anything because in order to make progress you have to be able to deal with a struggle. And the problem with most males out here is they don't want to go out here and deal with a struggle. Now your Will Smith doesn't want to deal with the struggles of having to restart his life at 53 years old, and he has a lot of fear as related to dealing with trying to restart his life at 53 years old. But there is nothing really to be afraid of because whenever you lose something, there is something better out here, and God wants you to let go of what you have in order to gain something better. So, in order to get something better, you have to let go of what you have, and that's something many men just don't know how to do. Many men don't know how to be able to let something go in order to get something better, and they don't understand that if you want something better, you have to be able to let something go so that you can be in a place where you can go out here and get better. So that's all part of the process of taking that L to get to the W. But a lot of guys, they don't want to take the L because they're afraid of losing. Now, your Will Smith is afraid of losing that $175 million as related to a possible divorce, but losing that $175 million is a sacrifice that a man of character would make because he understands that that financial loss in the short term is nothing compared to what he would gain in the long term. And that's something that Will Smith is afraid of assessing, but that's what I would critically assess because when I look at the big picture, sometimes, again, you have to take a loss to get to a gain. But the whole thing is many men, they're afraid, like Will Smith, are afraid to take an L to get to the W because they're afraid of having their world disrupted because they're comfortable in their world. And they're afraid that if their world winds up changing, they will have to deal with that change. But that change is not a bad thing. And that's one of the big problems with a lot of guys as related to losing. They're afraid that everything is going to be bad, but losing is not a bad thing. That's something many men have to get their minds right on. They have to get their minds right to understand that losing is not a bad thing. No, losing is something that everybody is going to have to go through. Losing is something everybody is going to have to deal with. And if you don't know how to lose, then you're not going to be in a place where you're going to be able to prepare to win. So losing is something that prepares you to win because when you lose, again, you build up your discipline as related to your character. And when you go out here and build up your discipline as related to your character, that means you're going to be in a better place mentally to be able to handle it when you win. So losing when hearing the word no, again, is not a bad thing because you're in this place where your discipline is being prepared and you're also in a place where your resolve is going to start developing. Because if you really want something, once you lose, that's when you're going to start learning to find another approach. And guys who live in the smooth world, like a Will Smith, they don't really learn how to do things differently. And that's only something you can learn when you lose. Because guys out here, they're used to doing the same thing all the time because it always works. Because in the smooth world, there are no conflicts, no problems or obstacles. And because the smooth world is a place where they don't have to deal with conflict, they don't have to learn from their mistakes. And because they don't have to learn from their mistakes, they don't have to learn to try a different approach. Because when you lose, one of the things a man of character has to do is he has to start taking that critical examination of self. And when he starts making that critical examination of self, that's when he starts to really start to take a look at how he approaches things, what he's doing, and what went wrong. Unfortunately, many of your beta males, like your Will Smith, they don't really want to make that kind of assessment because they are so used to wanting to get success that they don't want to take a critical examination of their failures and take a look at them and see what failed and then go out here and regroup because everybody who fails, they have to take an assessment of what they did wrong. And once they take that assessment of what they did wrong, then they can go out here, see what didn't work, and then go out here and correct course. That's all part of losing is learning what you did wrong, why it didn't work, and then try to regroup and find a new strategy that will work. So that's something that is a key point as related to losing that many men don't really understand these days, especially your simps and your beta males. They really don't understand the whole concept of losing being something positive because losing is showing you where things aren't working. Because when you see where things aren't working, then you can start finding another way to do things. And finding another way to do things is the best way to come to a solution. So when you lose, you already know what doesn't work. And when you know what doesn't work, you know to stop doing what's not working and find something else to do. Now, many guys, like your Will Smith and your beta males, they're afraid to do this. And they're afraid to do this because when they see failure for the first time, they're not really used to it. So they are so used to winning all the time that when an L comes along, it really hurts them emotionally and they take that loss personally. And one of the things I learned in life is that you can't take losses personally. No, because if you take losses personally, what you're going to do is wind up stagnating and you're going to wind up in the place where you're never going to grow and move yourself forward. You're just going to stay in the same place for months and even years. And as you dwell on what your failures, what you're going to do is just keep sitting there in a neutral place and you're not going to go anywhere at all. And that's not a good place to be where you're just sitting there all the time, dwelling on one big failure, because if you keep dwelling on the failure, you're never going to get success. And that's what fear will do to you. Fear will have it where you're sitting there being afraid to try something different because you're afraid that if you fail again, that this is a bad thing. But failing is not a bad thing. It's something that will help you learn and it will help you develop and it will help you be able to move yourself forward. So when I looked at your O'Shea Duke Jackson's video about Will Smith and him talking about, his fear about divorcing Jada Pinkett, I really thought about what it means to take losses. And losses, yes, they are not a bad thing. They're just showing you that things aren't working and you have to go out here and do something different. Now, many of your nice guys, they don't like doing something different because they get in their feelings about being comfortable. They get in their feelings about things being the same, and they get in their feelings about staying in the same place because they want everything to remain in that smooth world. But if everything remains smooth, the whole thing is you get no surface for anything to hold on to. So that's the other mistake that many of your guys like Will Smith don't understand is that if you've got nothing to hold on, if you've got no rough edges to hold on to, then everything is not going to be in a place where you can move, where you can start having something to hold on to so you can climb to get yourself out of a situation. If your whole situation is smooth and you don't have any conflicts or obstacles, then you have nothing to overcome. And when you have nothing to overcome, then you're not building a discipline and resolve to be able to deal with a challenge. So you have a guy out here, he's used to everything being success, he's used to being everything doing well, and he's used to holding on to his old life, not understanding that the longer he holds on to a situation that doesn't work, the longer he's going to remain in a dysfunctional situation with what is now a toxic wife and a situation with grown children who do not respect him. So he's looking at it as, I need to stay here because he's in his emotions about thinking about his past successes, how he was the box office champ, how he was the Hollywood superstar, how everything is about him having all of that great success in the past. Unfortunately, as he's stuck in the past and afraid to let go of his past, he's missing out on the next phase of his life, which is the future. So that's another problem with guys who don't want to take a loss. They don't understand that sometimes you are in a different state of life. And when you're in this different state of life, you've got to let go of that time that where you had all of that, those memories that made you happy. And you've got to go out here and move to a place where you may be uncomfortable for a season, but then you might be able to move towards a more prosperous time once again. That is something that a lot of guys fear because they fear losing their secure place in security, and they fear losing their place where they're comfortable. But a man understands he can't get too comfortable in life, because if he gets too comfortable in life, what's going to happen is that he's not going to be in a place where he can be competitive. So many men out here who know how things are, we know that you can't be comfortable, because comfort is one of the worst things. Because when you start to become comfortable, that's when that fear starts to set in whenever it's time to change. So every man out here knows that in order to get to change, he's got to take losses, because it's those losses that are going to help him get better. And it's those losses that are going to take him further up the road to success. Now, I myself have had to take some L's in life as related to that job that I had in 2008. And I had to take a lot of L's when I first started the SJS Direct imprint. Now, when I started the SJS Direct imprint back in 2009, I had to take a lot of L's as related to losses, as related to production costs for my first couple of books. And a lot of those books, I had to take those losses because there was a learning curve as we're learning how to publish books. And it also was a learning curve on how to sell books. So these were losses that I had to take as related to money. But as I took those losses as related to money, I started to learn how the publishing business worked as related to digital publishing. And I also learned how to sell books through digital publishing on online platforms like Amazon.com, Smashwords, the iBookstore, Barnes & Noble, and Google Play. And even though I lost some money as related to starting the SJS Direct imprint, I did learn how to publish books, and I learned how to go out here and be able to sell books. And I also had to learn how to swallow my pride as related to the hand-drawn book covers and go out here and find other artists and make sacrifices as related to getting the money to pay those artists. So that was it was a long, tough process, but the whole thing is I learned a lot of stuff. And the only way, and the first lesson I learned is that, again, in order to gain some sort of success, you have to be able to take a loss, and you have to be able to have that character to take those losses, because you want to go out here and get some gains as related to whatever goal you want to accomplish. Because a lot of guys out here, they want to have success, but then they don't want to go out here and fail. And that is a big problem with a lot of guys out here. They don't want to fail. So they're afraid of taking risks. They're afraid of things failing. But failure is a part of life. And in order to get to success, you have to be able to accept failure in your life. And you have to be able to accept that if something isn't working, then you learn from what didn't work and go try something else. And that's something I had to do in 2011 when I saw paperbacks weren't selling. I had to shift gears and go into ebooks. And then when I shifted gears and went into ebooks and started building an audience on platforms like Smashwords, that's when I started to shift back to paperbacks. And I really didn't get back to paperbacks until about 2017 or 2018 when I started doing shows with people like Obsidian and many others. And that's when I shifted back to paperbacks. And that was all, again, a tough learning curve, but it was a tough learning curve where I learned to do things better. And that's all part of losing. You learn what doesn't work, and then you learn to, as you're learning what doesn't work, you learn to try new approaches and learn what does work. And in the case of your Will Smith, right now, he's got to learn how to accept the losses as related to his marriage, because basically his marriage to Jada Pinkett at this point is over. And he's got to accept that this marriage is over, because when a woman is disrespecting you, when a woman is emasculating you, and when a woman is talking about other men, that's when you have to realize that the marriage is over, and it's just better to divorce that woman, because that relationship is over at this point. And yes, it's something that he's going to have to accept, that this is over, and realize that there is not going to be a bad marriage for life, because the bad marriage for life is costing him his personal life, and it's making him to be filled with a lot of stress, making him filled to be with a lot of anxiety, making him very much in a very anxious state where he cannot even function at all. So he has to learn, okay, this is a loss. And yes, it is a short-term loss, and it will cost him some money, just like it cost me money to start the SJS Direct Imprint. But sometimes that little bit of money you're going to lose is nothing compared to what you're going to gain as related to the next phase of your life. And yes, your Will Smith will get a little bit of embarrassment if Jada comes out with some of his secrets as related to his marriage. And yes, he will wind up possibly losing a lot of money as related to the community property laws. But I see where there's a lot he's going to gain from accepting those losses. And the most important thing your Will Smith is going to gain is peace of mind. Now, your peace of mind, as I see it, is worth more than that $175 million that your Jada Pinkett is going to get. The little bit of money that she's going to get is nothing compared to the intangible of peace of mind. And it's that intangible of peace of mind that is going to put him in a better place mentally. And as he gets his mental health together as related to things, he'll be in a place where he's going to have gone through all of this pain, but all of that pain is going to help him grow. So his character will get a lot stronger as related to this whole situation, because if he gets the character to say, okay, this relationship is not working, then he'll be able to say, okay, the relationship is not working. I need to have my peace of mind, and divorcing this woman, give her whatever she wants. It may appear to be simpish on the surface, but the whole thing is that once you let this woman go, you'll be in a much better place where you can go out here and be focused on competing once more. So you can go out here and compete as an actor and restore your image and your reputation. And once your Will Smith restores his image and reputation by divorcing Jada Pinkett, he will get another intangible just like in addition to his peace of mind, and that is he will get his respect back. Because in this situation he's in right now, he has lost his face as related to his image, and he has lost the respect of all of the men and women out here because they see him taking abuse from Jada Pinkett, taking abuse to the point where he's emasculated. And as he takes this abuse, as he's emasculated, what he's doing is he's lost the respect of all the people in his life. And the only way to take that respect is to accept that his marriage is a loss and take the losses as related to that marriage, because one, he'll get the peace of mind back as related to his personal life, and two, he will get the respect because he's showing that he respects himself. And once he takes his respect, he will start getting respect from people. So those are two of the things your Will Smith would gain as related to things, because the longer he allows people to disrespect him, this is why more and more people will continue to pile on your Will Smith, the way white supremacy piled on your Will Smith by going out here and canceling several of his projects and delaying others. The reason why they did that was because they saw weakness in Will Smith, and they sought to capitalize on that weakness by going out here and saying that, okay, if his wife doesn't respect him, then we won't respect him, and we will go out here and take our jobs from him, and we will go out here and make it where he won't be in a place where he'd be able to support himself financially. And he wasn't able to support himself financially. He's taking these losses because he doesn't allow people to, he doesn't respect himself. And because he doesn't respect himself, he's somebody that people just can't trust anymore. And the way he reclaims the trust again is by taking a short-term loss to get to a long-term gain. And again, taking that short-term loss may be divorcing a Jada Pinkett, taking a little bit of a short-term financial hit, but then you're going to take a long-term gain by getting your intangibles of manhood in place. And once your Will Smith gets his intangibles of manhood in place, then he can be in a much better place as related to being able to rebuild his life. Because part of losing is, again, learning what didn't work and then working towards a strategy and approaches that do work. And as you're working on those strategies, you are moving away from toxic people and you're moving towards much more healthy people. That's another part of the process of taking a loss. Yes, you're cutting these people out of your life. And yes, it is a very painful thing to do, to cut people out of your life, especially if you've got emotional attachments to those people, like your wife or your family. But sometimes you have to go out here and cut those ties from those people because it's not working out for you. And if it's not working out for you at this point, then you've got to lose those people, because when you lose those people out of your life, you are cutting away the people who are nothing but anchors on you and practically sucking the life out of you. And you're putting yourself in a place where you can start swimming forward and swimming towards a safer place. So that's another thing that a lot of guys like your Will Smith have a problem with as related to taking an L. They go out here and they form emotional bonds with people. And when you form these emotional bonds with people, you think, oh, if I let this person go, it's going to hurt them. But you're not really thinking critically about how they're hurting you, because that person who is holding on to you, they really don't respect you, and all they want to do is continue maintaining a codependent relationship where they continue to abuse you, and as they continue to abuse you, they make you feel worthless. They keep you in a place where you're stagnant, and they keep you from being in a place where you can go out here and do better. No, that what they do is keep you in that place because they have power, and they keep that power over you by going out here and abusing you the way a person like a Jada Pinkett is abusing a Will Smith. And again, the person feels, oh, I can't do any better than this because their self esteem has been lowered for years of being in this abusive relationship. But sometimes you just have to say, this is not working out. I need to let this person go. And yes, I'm taking an L as related to letting this person go, but I have to let these people go in order for me to be in a better situation. Yes, you may emotionally miss this person from your life. You may miss the uh, memories you have of this person, but as you start to put these people in the rear view mirror, your life is going to get a lot better. And that's something your Will Smith has to think about making. In order to make things better, he has to let go of a toxic Jada Pinkett, and he has to let her go her way, and not even think about her. Because I remember when I was 16 and I was in Park West High School, I really liked being able to travel on the train and buy my comic books, but I was not in a place where I was going to be able to graduate because the situation at that high school was so toxic, and I was around a lot of toxic people who were only focused on boyfriend girlfriend nonsense, and I couldn't focus on my grades because of the harassment I got regarding it. And I prayed to God to change my life for the better, and I wound up changing schools as a result in 1990. Now I had a lot of emotional attachment to that school because of my independence and being able to go out and buy my comics and being able to ride the train and things like that. But the whole thing was, it was not helping me be able to be in a place where I was going to be able to accomplish the goals that I needed to accomplish. So I had to deal with the pain of letting that whole lifestyle go, and it was a painful process to deal with. But at the end of 1992, things got better because I got my high school diploma in 1992. So sometimes, again, I had to take a short-term loss as related to leaving Park West High School in 1990 in order to get the long-term gain of getting my high school diploma in 1992. So I know for a fact what Will Smith has to do because I've done it myself. And sometimes, again, you have to go out here and let something go in order to get someplace or somewhere better. Sometimes you have to let a life situation that isn't working out going. And yes, you are going to take losses in the beginning as related to that life because you're starting completely over. But as you start completely over, you're going to start to get better. And the whole process of getting better is you're going to have to deal with the pain. Now, the pain will be letting people go, and it will also be going out here and having to, as you're starting over, trying to go out here and adjust and adapt. So that's the other part of the process of taking an L to get a W. A lot of guys, once they take the L, they don't want to go out here and start making those steps because they're afraid of, oh, if I take these steps, things are going to fail. Things are going to get messed up. But you have to go out here and take that L to get to that W. And you have to face your fears about those losses. I mean, you have to take those fears because, again, once you let all that old stuff go and start making those steps to move forward, that's a very scary place to be. And that's where your Will Smith is having his fears right now about taking the L. He fears that he's going to be in a place where it's the unknown, But as someone who has been there a couple of times, I can tell you that being in that place of the unknown, yes, it is a very scary place, but it's a place where, yes, you're going to go through some pain, but that pain is going to lead to growth. So, yes, your Will Smith is going to be in a place where, yeah, your Jada Pinkett is going to go out here and be acting emotional and getting crazy, because when a lot of these codependent people feel like they're losing power, what they're going to do is they're going to go berserk. And then when they go berserk, you have to not be phased by them going berserk, because as you start making your steps forward, these people are going to get further and further into the rear view mirror. And as they get further and further into the rear view mirror, they're not going to be in a place where they can go out here and touch you. As you go out here and take the steps to leave toxic people, those people are going to not have as much power. So this is something that your Will Smith has to learn as related to facing his fear. The further away you get from a toxic person, the better you're going to get, because they're not going to be near you to continue dropping their negativity. And as they're not there, you can then start focusing on positivity. Yes, you're in the world of the unknown, but the unknown is a good place, because in that place you can start focusing on where you want to go, what you want to do, and what you want to accomplish. Now, your Will Smith, as I see it, he's in a very good place, because if he gets rid of Jada Pinkett, he can then start focusing on the next phase of his career and the next phase of his life. Because at 53 years old, he can now focus on going out here and start focusing on the next phase of his life, because now his children are grown, and he can then focus on going out here and rebuilding his life and having a much better life by himself, because now he doesn't have to worry about this woman and his children. They're on their own, and now he can start working on trying to heal himself and break out of this nice guy paradigm, because as he lets go of your Jada Pinkett, takes the L on her and takes a loss financially short term, he can then start focusing on doing things like I recommended, reading Dr. Robert Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy, and taking a nice guy workshop and breaking out of the nice guy paradigm. And then as he's breaking out of the nice guy paradigm, he can then focus on dealing with his career. And yes, your Jada Pinkett may throw some bombs talking about he did all of this different stuff as related to open marriage, and talk about things as related to their sex life, but he cannot be phased. And what he needs to do is say, yes, I did this stuff if it was done, and then just move on, and then start focusing on building a business, as I see it, outside of Hollywood. Because as I see it, Will Smith has again won the Oscar at this point, so he hasn't really lost anything as related to many of these shelved projects. If those studios want to make those projects, they can make them. But he's in a place where he can now start focusing on taking what remaining money he has and building wealth for himself. That's where I see your Will Smith going right now. I see him doing like the late actor Fess Parker, who in the 1970s just decided to end his career. He said, I've already made all the movies I wanted to make. I made the shows I wanted to make. And in the 1970s, he retired, and he started to open up his own hotels, and he opened up a winery, and he wound up building a lot of wealth that took care of him until he passed away in about 2010. And that's the same place I see your Will Smith being in, the same place that the late Fess Parker was in, and many older actors from the 40s and the 50s. Many of those actors, they would go out here, they had their career in Hollywood, they made their money, and then once they made their money, they went out here and said, I've already done everything that needs to be done. I can put a period at the end of this career, and now I'm going to go out here and focus on building wealth by investing in different businesses. And then as I'm investing in different businesses, I'm going to use this to be a passive revenue stream and call it a career. So there's the whole different career that they can have. Because again, once Will Smith won the Oscar, he basically was at the top of his career. And at 53 years old, there's not much else he needs to do as related to a career anymore. He was the box office champ. He made 20 million a picture. There's not anything else he needs to do at this point. So as I see it, and like C Truth the Revelator said, yeah, he's got nothing else to prove at this point. So all he needs to do is say, look, I'm gonna just retire as an actor. I'm already gonna get lots of residuals from these movies I've made. And if you want to go out here and shelve these projects, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to cancel those projects, that's cool too. I'm just going to go out here and go move on, start some other business ventures outside of Hollywood, and let those be a secondary revenue stream. And then as he's making that a second revenue stream, he's out here, he'll try to wrap up whatever he's got. I mean, if he's got that Bel Air show, he can keep that going with your Peacock and let that run until the contract runs out. But just focus on moving things forward. And as you focus on moving things forward, what your Will Smith can do is go out here and start making even more steps to going out here and moving towards the W. Because as I see it, the win is right there for your Will Smith, just like it was there for Vanessa Williams in the 80s. Now, I remember being a kid during the 1980s when Vanessa Williams was the first Black Miss America, and your Bob Guccione came out here with some pictures of her that she did that were art house nudes, and your Vanessa Williams, in the face of the scandal, was forced to go out here and give up her crown. And as she gave up the crown of Miss America, she did not give up her resolve. And that was one of the things that really impacted me as a kid, seeing her not give up her resolve. Your Vanessa Williams, when they told her she couldn't be Miss America again, she just went out here and focused on acting and singing. And she turned out to be one of the biggest stars as related to music in the late 80s and the 90s, and was a working actress and still is a working actress to this day. And your Vanessa Williams has had an amazing career over the last 30 years. Meanwhile, the Miss America pageant has practically gone bankrupt. And the guy who exposed her, Bob Guccione, who ran Penthouse magazine, his magazine went bankrupt. So yes, your Vanessa Williams took an L back in 1984 when the whole scandal as related to the Penthouse pictures came out, and she had to give up the Miss America crown. But if you look at Vanessa Williams today, she's taken a huge W, and she got the victory over all of those who thought they were going to destroy her. And she got that victory because she had the discipline, the character, and the resolve to persevere in the face of failure. And as she was learning from the failure from going out here and signing a release for art house pictures, she has now gone out here and had one of the best careers as related to entertainment out here. So that's what happens when you go out here and take the short-term loss and you start working towards the long-term gain. Vanessa Williams is an example for everybody as related to taking that L and turning it into a W. And that's something your Will Smith should be looking at, because taking that L, yeah, it's something everybody has to do. And it's something every man has to do out here. Every man out here has to take an L sometimes. And taking that L is painful in the beginning, but taking that L is the only way you're going to get to the W. Because, yes, you took the loss in the beginning, and that was a very hard thing to do, hearing no or seeing things fail. But it's only in the failures that you can go out here and build the character to keep working towards the success. Because as you keep building up the character, as related to your failures. You're willing to accept that one, you're not perfect. Two, you do make mistakes. And three, you can go out here and learn from those mistakes. And as you're learning from those mistakes and doing things different, you are out here showing people that you are somebody that it should be respected because you're out here willing to take those hits. You're willing to take those losses. You're willing to fail, and people see that and they respect that because as they see you persevering in the face of all of those failures, they are saying to themselves, hey, this guy is somebody who's out here every day, and they're willing to keep out here pushing and persevering. So that's something that's going to earn you the intangible of respect, but you can't really focus on them. You have to focus on you because it's all about you and it's all about where you want to be in life. And a lot of people, they don't understand that you can get out of the loser position, but getting out of the loser position means going on a rough road. So getting out of the loser position means getting ready to take a rough road. It means having to deal with a lot of hard stuff, and it means a lot of pain. But again, these guys who are out here, like a Will Smith, they're afraid of pain, but that's not something you need to be afraid of because the life situation you're in right now is worse than anything. It's not working. And that world that you're in is getting rougher at every minute because that smooth world that you want to be in is falling apart around you. And that's something many of your beta males don't understand about these whole situations. They're afraid of taking these losses, but they can't really see how they're losing right now. And they can't see that being in a situation that is not optimal to you is just making it where you're the one losing at the end of the day. And it's just going to get worse because as those people see you in this situation, they're not respecting you. And instead of them looking to help you move up, all they're looking to do is take what you have, and they'll take practically everything and leave you to be a carcass sitting there that some predator will make soup out of the bones. So that's why you want to start moving on the rough road because it's part of your survival, because you're not going to be able to live in a situation with toxic people because the more afraid of them you are, the more power they get. And the more power they get, the more these vultures will sink their teeth into you, and the more they will try to pick every part of your carcass clean, and they'll leave you dead right there, and then go on with their lives and leave you not to be nothing but a memory. But the only way out of that, again, is to accept this situation isn't working. And yes, you're going to say that I'm going to lose as related to this situation, but there's a lot more to gain. But you have to be able to start taking those steps on the rough road, start taking those steps in the darkness, because it is going to be a dark and rough road. Because I know from experience, it's a dark and rough road going out and letting go of things, letting go of people, letting go of life situations that you were used to, life routines you were used to. It's a rough road letting go of these things, but you have to understand that if you want something better, you have to let go of what you have in order to get to something better. Because if what you're doing right now isn't working and you continue to try to apply the same approaches, then basically you are stuck in a cycle that is insane, because the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And a lot of beta males, like a Will Smith, they oftentimes think, oh, if I continue to do the exact same thing, hopefully other people will sit there and appreciate them and eventually they'll change. But no, they are not going to change. No, toxic people do not change, and they have no reason to change because they remain in power. And as long as they remain in power, they have no incentive to go out here and do better. They have no incentive to show you respect. No, the only way to deal with disrespectful people is to make sure that you're not around them because they don't respect you, they don't like you, and again, yes, they will tolerate you to get whatever they want. And how are you winning by letting people tolerate you to get what they want? It's a critical question I would like to ask a Will Smith because he's taking losses by trying to stay in this codependent situation, and he doesn't understand that these losses are like a vampire just sucking life out of him. And again, yes, he's going to take a short term loss by cutting those ties, but the whole thing is he's saving his life, and that's going to be another long term gain. And again, sometimes you have to take a loss to get a gain, and that's a life lesson most men have to learn early on because sometimes you have to take a short term loss to get to the long term gain. But the whole thing is, do you have the courage to take the short term loss? And that's the critical question your Will Smith has to ask himself as related to his marriage because he has to understand, are you willing to take that short term loss? And do you even see it as a short term loss? Yes, you've been with this woman for 25 years, but this woman never wanted to be with you. And if she doesn't want to be with you, then take the short term L to get to the long term W. I mean, why stay in it? Why let her sit there and say, oh, I never wanted to get married? Well, okay, I don't have to stay married to an adulteress. According to the Bible, an adulteress is somebody I can go out here and divorce and be under the jurisdiction of God, and I can just let you go since you don't want to be here. And yes, it's a short term loss, and I will be happy to take that loss in order to get the gain of the intangible of not only peace of mind, not only respect, but also freedom. That's the other intangible your Will Smith will also be gaining, the intangible of freedom. And the intangible of freedom is an important one for most men out here. Having your freedom means you can go out here and live your life the way you want to live, and you can live a life where you don't have to deal with any sort of toxicity. And it's again, if this woman wants to go out here and go get her half and go talk about how living her lifestyle is related to alimony, let her take as much money as she wants, because eventually the money is not going to ever make this woman happy, and you're not responsible for her happiness. Now that's another problem many beta males out here have to deal with. They always live to please other people, and they're afraid of them losing, but they don't understand that it's not your job to make other people happy. No, God put you here for a purpose, and part of that purpose is understanding you need to put yourself first. And if this woman is putting you at last, then you need to put her last, and you need to focus on making yourself a priority. That's another thing that guys out here need to understand about taking an L. Yes, you have lost something again in the short term, but in the long term, you are going to again be in a place where you can capitalize on other opportunities, because as you've got your freedom, you can go out here and focus on other goals. You can focus on doing other things, and you can focus on doing things that are better for you. So sometimes taking an L will lead to you, again, being on that rough road, but that rough road eventually starts to get easier to travel on, because as you're building your character on that rough road, you are learning what you need to do to win. So you are learning a lot of different lessons about perseverance. You're learning a lot of lessons about trying to go out here and continue to keep challenge pushing in the face of failure. And each of those failures is actually making you internally stronger. And as you get stronger, you will be out here in a place where you're ready to take on more challenges. And you'll be in a place where you'll be able to start working on the road to success. And that's what you learn from failure, is to succeed. And your Will Smith could easily learn how to succeed, but he's got to learn how to accept that the life situation that he's in is a failure. And at this point, he has run out of road, and he needs to put a period at the end of things. That's another thing that a lot of beta males have a problem with, is putting a period at the end of things. And because they are terrible enders, they don't know how to end things. But if you want to go out here and get to a place where you can get to the W, you have to know how to put a period at the end of things. Healthy men know how to put a period at the end of things in life, and they know that there are different stages in life, because as you're working toward your goals, you know where the finish line is. Unfortunately, your beta male, like a Will Smith, doesn't know where the finish line is. They don't know how to put a period at the end of things. But this is a process you have to learn early on, is if a situation isn't working, you have to put a period at the end of things, and you have to move on. Now, putting a period at the end of things means saying, okay, this is not working and it's over. So I'm just going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to move on to something else. It also means when you finish a project, like for example, a book like an ISIS Legacy or an East Horror of the Hyena Woman, once I finish one of these books, I put a period at the end of the story and I start focusing on the next story. So when I put a period at the end of things, it's saying, okay, this story is where I want it to be. Things are right in the place I want them to be. So what I'm going to do is put a period here, and then I'm going to move on to something else. It means I'm finished here. Everything is where I want it to go. And when you're having anything in life, you're saying, okay, I've done all I wanted to do here. I've done what I need, what I wanted to accomplish, and now I want to move on to something else. Now, you are losing as related to saying that you're not working on this anymore, and you're doing that because you want to gain by taking on a new challenge. That's what I do whenever I finish an ISIS or an E-Steve series book. I say, okay, I've finished the story here. Now I want to start something else. And that's the positive point as related to taking a loss. You are gaining an opportunity to take on a new challenge. And that's where your Will Smith is right now. If he goes out here and divorces a Jada Pinkett, he's in a place where he can take on new challenges. And in that place, he doesn't have to deal with Hollywood anymore. He doesn't have to deal with a Hollywood wife. And he can now go on to do something else. And he could possibly go on to have great success doing something else. Because, again, like Vanessa Williams, she was no longer going to be able to do pageants like Miss America anymore. So she was in a place where she realized, hey, yes, I'm taking the L here, but I'm in a place where I have an opportunity to go do something better. And I am in a place where I can go out here and have greater success. And that's the way your Will Smith has to see it. And that's the way most men out here have to see things as related to taking L's. Yes, you're in a place where you heard the word no. Yes, you're in the workplace where you're dealing with toxic people. And yes, you're in a place where things aren't working, but you can make it work for you by walking away and walking down the road that may be rough in the beginning, but as you're walking on that road, you can deal with those who want to deal with you. So that's the other thing that a lot of these guys do, because they're codependent. They don't want to leave the people because they're comfortable and because they want to stay with those people because they know them. But sometimes you have to leave a toxic place and toxic people to get towards healthy people, because part of becoming a healthy person is understanding that you're in a toxic situation. And as you're in a toxic situation, you have to realize that you have to go to be around healthy people if you want to reclaim your health. Because part of reclaiming your health is realizing that the people you're around are not positive. And if you want to get positive outcomes, you need to be around positive people. That's something I learned again back in the early 90s when I changed high schools, is that you have to be around positive people in order to get positive results, because toxic people are going to keep you in a toxic place because they get off on maintaining codependent relationships with you, and they get off on having power over you. But the way you take your power back is by leaving those people. And when you leave those people, that's where you're going to win, because you win by taking your power back. You win by taking control over your life, and you win by trusting in God, because God wants you to move forward. He wants you to have an abundant life, but you have to have the faith to go out here and step out into that dark place. And you have to have the faith that and follow the light, and that light will take you to a much better and more abundant life. So there's a lot as related to your Will Smith and him and listening to him talk about fear of loss. But the whole thing is, as someone who knows what those losses are, I know that there's a lot of gains to be made, but you have to have that courage to take that short-term L to get to that long-term W, because it's that courage and that faith to go out that's going to get you to the long-term W. And in that place of the long-term W is where you're going to not only find success, but you're also going to develop a stronger character. You're going to develop a stronger resolve, and you're going to be a much better person, because you're going to be in a place where you've learned lessons as related to your life, and you're going to be in a place where you can go out here and apply the lessons you've learned, and be in a place where you don't have to deal with all the stresses and dramas that you had in the past, and you can go out here and have a much better future. So that's all the things you can learn from taking an L and working towards getting to the W. So that's the lesson I wanted to teach with tonight's stream. And when I watched O'Shea Duke Jackson's video as related to Will Smith and his fears, I wanted to do a show to talk about, where he could go, because the place he's going to go means, again, short-term loss, but short-term loss is nothing to a long-term gain. Salute, Brother Cap. Glad to see you here. I'm getting ready. I'm talking about Will Smith and when a man takes a short-term loss to get to a long-term gain. And I wanted to talk about Will Smith and where he needed to go as related to his life. Because when I looked at Will Smith, I saw a lot of what I experienced growing up as a teenager. And a lot of the stuff I saw as a teenager made me pray to God to change my life. And I had to take a lot of losses in order to get gains. And again, a lot of guys out here, they're afraid to take those L's because they feel like, oh, I'm going to lose so much. But you're not really going to lose much if you hang in there. If you hang in there, you can gain a lot more, and you're going to gain a lot more than just sitting in a toxic situation where you're going to wind up being eaten up by these acidic people, and they're going to boil you down to bones. And once they boil you down to bones, they are basically going to leave your carcass sitting there, and possibly some female predator will pick up the bones and make herself a nice soup. And your Will Smith, at this point, he needs to realize at 53 years old, as I see it again, he needs to realize, hey, okay, it's a short-term loss divorcing Jada Pinkett, but it's going to be a long-term gain, because I can now live my middle age and senior years in peace. I can live my middle age and senior years doing something else. And I can leave this miserable woman. Yes, she'll have $175 million in the beginning, but I guarantee you she'll be broke in less than a year, because like Janie Crawford from Their Eyes Are Watching God, she's going to squander the money she has, thinking that there's plenty more. And she's going to think that I'm going to live my best life, have my thought girl summer. And what's going to happen is she's going to wind up becoming broke, washed up, and practically be a laughing stock. But that's not a concern for a man who's accepted that it's a loss. When he accepts a loss, he says, okay, that's over with. I'm putting a period at the end of it, and I'm moving on. And once I move on, it's no longer these problems are no longer my problems. It's nothing I ever have to worry about. It's nothing I ever have to think about, because what I'm focused on is doing better for myself. And that's the way your Will Smith has to think. And he has to get himself to that mindset. And if he has to go to rehab, and I think that's where he's getting some semblance of things as related to rehab, I'm hoping that he did find a way to talk to Dr. Robert Glover. But the whole thing is that in order to break out of this whole toxic life paradigm, he has to learn how to take an L in the short term in order to achieve success in the long term. And again, success is not just about money. Success is about having a quality of life. And to be successful means that you're in a place where you have your life in a place where God is content, and God is putting you in a place where you can be content, and you can go out here and work to be your best and do your best work on earth and work towards your purpose. That is success. It's not just about money and riches and fame. It's about being in a place where you can go out here and do God's work. And your Will Smith, he's in a place where, as I see it, he's not doing God's work. He's in a place where he's miserable. And in order to get to a place where he can be successful again, you have to take the loss and realize that the Hollywood life is over, and it's time to focus on, as I see it, a life with the Most High, and life focusing on building a relationship with the Most High so that you can work towards an abundant life and get towards a place of perfect peace. And that's another thing I see with your Will Smith as related to him working towards a W. He's got to work on getting his spiritual life in order and his relationship with the Most High, because all these different things he was doing weren't working. And this is a place where he's an opportunity to start having a relationship with the Most High. So that's another thing that I see as related to him getting another big W, getting a relationship with God. That's another big W he could take as related to this situation, because he's in a place where, yes, they're talking bad now, but you can't worry about the people talking bad now. You have to focus on where you want to be later. That's where I was when I was in high school. I ignored the people who were talking bad and started focusing on where I wanted to go. And that's the same place where I see your Will Smith at right now. He's got to focus on where he wants to go, what he wants to do, and he's got to focus on going out here and focusing on trying to work towards his future success instead of dwelling on things that aren't working right now. He needs to start focusing on working on building things that will succeed in the future. So I want everybody to head over to Amazon.com and pick up a copy of Isis Legacy and Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman. I'm trying to get at least 10 sales on both of these books. And one of the other goals I'm working on is trying to get to 100 paperback and ebook sales for a month again. So I'm asking everybody to pick up a copy of Isis Legacy and Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman. Both of these books are available on Amazon.com in paperback, and Isis Legacy is available on Kindle right now, and Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman will be available on Kindle on May 13th. So you can pre-order your copy of Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman right now and pick up a copy of Isis Legacy. And I have a lot of other great books on the SJS Direct Imprint, and I'm asking everybody to check out the books on the SJS Direct Imprint. All these books are positive Black fiction, and you can find them all on Amazon.com right now. So you can pick up all of my books on the SJS Direct Imprint, like Isis Legacy and Eastern Horror of the Hyena Woman, right now. So that would be greatly appreciated, because I'm working hard for some weekend book sales. And I wanted to know anybody's thoughts about starting the live streams at 11:30. I'm thinking about starting the live streams at 11:30 because when I start at 11, there's nobody really here. So I'm thinking about starting out a little later. So if you guys want to start me to start a little later, you can drop a comment in the comment section and let me know if that's a more optimal time for you. So that's one of the things I'm thinking about doing with the live streams, because I don't want to be sitting here just for 30 minutes and people are missing out on key points of the show. But that's something I'm thinking about. So that's something I'm thinking about. But I also wanted to give everybody a update on the John Haynes at Death's Door comic. Again, Antonio Balderi has finished not finished the cover. He started the cover for John Haynes at Death's Door. He's finished all of the art for John Haynes at Death's Door. And once I get that cover, I will be launching the not the pre-order page, but the Kickstarter page, and letting everybody know that the date that the Kickstarter is going to start. So John Haynes at Death's Door the comic will be coming soon. And I'm hoping to get that comic to you guys sooner rather than later. And I'm hoping that once I get this cover, I'll be on my way to being able to launch the Kickstarter, and you guys will have the first full comic on the SJS Direct imprint. So that project is going along, and I'm hoping to have the books for the fall 2022 catalog, The Woman Crisis, ready to go, because I'm just right now in the middle of editing The Woman Crisis. So I'm hoping to have that out in the fall. And I wanted to give, again, everybody an update on the books for the 2022 catalog before I wrap up this stream, because I want to let everybody know what's coming down the pipe for the SJS Direct imprint. And I want everybody to know what I'm going to be offering as related to publications in the future. So I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream. And if you guys want to see me do more streams like this, you can, drop a donation to the Cash App. That will be greatly appreciated. That was the wrong link. Hold on. You can drop a donation to the Cash App, or you can drop a donation to the PayPal, and that will all be greatly appreciated, because that helps me be able to pay for the internet, and helps me to be able to stay on the air, and it helps me be able to do different projects like on the SJS Direct imprint. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream, and I hope you'll be there for next week's stream. And have a good evening and have a good night.